Hey guys, welcome back. I had a previous video where I showed why I chose the 05 to 07 axles for axle swaps, and those axles were for this truck. So this is an early 99 F350. This was built by a friend of mine probably about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And this truck at the time was probably the biggest 7.3 I've ever seen. So it's got a build engine in it with a whole bunch of stuff done to it. A lot of the HVAC is gone in this. This was built basically as a go fast race truck, just something to have fun with. And he sold it, and then his best friend bought it back just recently, and they're trying to fix it up. So he wanted to do an axle swap on it to get the upgraded axles from the 05 and up trucks, the bigger, heavier suspension, and the stronger axle shafts and everything like that. So he asked me if I could do it for him since I've done a couple of them. And we're going to go ahead and try to cover doing a 05 and up swap on a 99 to 04 Super Duty. So like I said, this is an early 99 truck. So the early 99 trucks are a little bit of an oddball. So like this truck doesn't have four-wheel ABS. It has a different rear axle. Your calipers are opposed instead of on the same plane. So there's going to be a little bit of differences between a regular 99 to 04 versus an early 99, but the steps and processes are all pretty much the same. So I have to get this done for him, and I'm not going to be videoing so much every little step, but we're going to go ahead and try to video some stuff and say, hey, you know, this is what needs done. And that way, if anybody wants to do a Super Duty to Super Duty swap, you know, it'll be kind of outlined for you a little bit. That way we don't have a super lengthy video for you. So I'm just going to walk around this truck with you and show you kind of some things that have been done to it, some things we're going to do to it, and try to give you an idea on, you know, how involved this is really going to be. So he put the 05 up front end on this truck. I'm not sure when, but it was done. We have a set of BMF wheels, which we're not going to be able to use since we've gotten to a different offset wheel. But it's a very nice crew cab short bed lariat truck. A little bit of custom paint on the bottom. There is a in-bed stack and a fuel cell, which I think we're going to end up removing the fuel cell because it was a temporary fix because this truck did have a sump in it whenever he was running it before he sold it. So the truck's very, very clean. Very, very nice. But there's a hole in the tank. There it is. So there's a hole in the tank. So we're going to have to end up replacing this tank. But very, very nice truck. And he wants to axle swap this and put the coil springs on it. So we'll be up here and we're going to end up taking the front bumper off and all the leaf springs and everything and getting this all set up. So we'll get this thing up in the air and kind of show you what's involved with doing this and go from there. So with these trucks, we're going to be changing everything up here. So no leaf springs. We're going to change the track bar out. No front sway bar unless he wants it. But yeah, we're going to be removing all of this and installing the 05 and up stuff up front here. So that'll involve removing this front bumper just to get a little bit of easier access to the leaf spring mounts and everything, because we're not just gonna leave the mounts on there and be done with it. We're gonna go ahead and remove all this so it looks like it's a factory setup. So like I said, there was a sump in here, and you can still see that it used to be there, and we are going to be using the rear factory leafs with this and removing these traction bars, because these traction bars are a homemade setup that with the evolution that this truck is going to take, they're going to be removed because they're not going to be strong enough. So we're going to go ahead and take those off as well and get them out of the equation. And we are going to attempt to put a new fuel tank in here for him so that he can run the factory fuel tank, but we're going to try to see if his fuel system is going to be compatible with the factory sending unit. So we'll have to check into that as well, because he's got a very large aeromotive pump over here that is running the fuel system on this truck. So I'm going to talk to him about that and see what he wants to do. But we're going to go ahead and change out this rear axle as well, which means all new e-brake cables and new U-bolts and everything like that. So I got to order some stuff for this truck yet. So that's why we're under here now today. We're going to do some measuring and looking at some stuff and make sure that we have the correct parts and make sure that there's nothing else that this truck needs to get swapped here or be road ready and safe. So we'll see what's going on with this, and once we get started on it, I'll go ahead and show you what we got going on. All right, so we got the axle out of here. I'm going to show you what we did. So everything's coming undone on this truck pretty easily. We got the shock mounts removed, and we'll go ahead and show you what to put the coil buckets onto when we get to that point. But we still have to take this bump stop off of here and get the calipers out of here, and then also the leaf springs and this bracket up front. We will also be removing the shackle back here and also the hangers for it that go through the frame, because we want a nice clean install with this truck. So we're going to be working on this here a little bit more, and we will give you a little bit of an update here once we get some more stuff off of here. That way we got a nice clean slate to work with, and we might be running into an issue with this cross member because it looks like somebody did a little bit of hack job there. So we're going to look into that, and that might be a problem. I might have to weld that back in there correctly. So, but right now the axle's out of here, and we are getting ready to do some more work on here, removing some more stuff. So we're going to still be taking out the rest of the older setup here, which is including this track bar mount and the steering box and a couple lines. So we'll see how far we get with this today. So far we have the leaf spring mounts taken off on the front here. The shock towers are gone. The rear leaf spring shackles are gone. The sway bar mounts are gone. This has to stay this way because the guy that did the engine work to this truck did this, and it's completely welded on the top. So us fixing this is not going to be doable because the engine would have to come out. because of how they welded it back in. So we're going to try and work around that with the track bar mount. Hopefully we can make it work. If not, we're going to have to modify the modification. So we got that much done over here. These spring hangers gone here. And also the shock. It's a little hard to see, it's kind of dark, but got to get the steering shaft off and get these lines off of here as well so we can get this steering box removed. Once we take the steering box out, we're going to go ahead and ream the holes for these new steering box. So I will show you what you have to do that, and we'll continue moving forward on this axle swap for this early 99 F350. Okay. So here we have the steering box out. As you can see, there's no bolts here holding the steering box in. We've got the old one sitting here draining into the pan. We also have our pressure line here that goes up to the booster, and the return line, which I have just propped up there so that it's out of the way. So we have the two different style bolts, and those can be seen right here. So as you have the new bolt, which is larger and longer, and here's your old bolt, which is the original one for this truck. So if you take your new bolt, you can see that it does not go in that. So I've already drilled this one out, and as you can see, it goes in nice and easy. So use a 9/16 bit for reaming these holes out. We still have to do this one and this one. And then these are a M14 bolt, and I do believe they're 140 millimeters long. I will put in the description or in the video here the actual exact specification for that bolt so that you know what to order. And if you're doing an OBS, that's actually the same bolt that you would use to use an 05 box on an OBS. So we're going to go ahead and drill the other two holes out here and then replace this line that goes up to the booster with an 05 and up line. So in order to do that, you obviously have to take the line off the box, and then up here, it's kind of hard to see, but there is an extension on the actual booster, and it is also going to come off. So we'll go up here and show that to you. That's this guy right here. So that line will come off, and then once you take that line off, there's a nut on the booster that holds the master on. You take that nut off, and then you can take the short little line off of the actual booster. Once you do that, the 05 to 07 line will bolt directly into the booster and then also into the steering box. So we'll go ahead and get that all set up, and we will go ahead and continue showing you the progress as we go along. So here we have the comparison between the two steering boxes. We have the 05 to 07 on the left, 99 to 04 on the right. Later model OBS trucks used this style of steering box with the 4 bolts on the top here, as you can see. Earlier models used a 2-bolt. They both perform the same function. Ford just changed them at some point. So why do you want to use this box versus this box? I do believe that this box has a better steering ratio, but if you use this box, and this goes for the OBS trucks as well, you get the larger shaft here. So as you can see, the size of this one versus this one is a lot bigger. Now, this lets you run the 05 to 07 or up if you chose to go higher, but the 05 to 07 box is a bolt-in, so to speak. Lets you use the correct pitman arm. Whereas if you use this box with this pitman arm, you have to ream out the rod end hole for the drag link, and finding somebody to do that is not very easy. However, you could also buy the pitman arm pre-reamed out, and they get to be a little bit of expensive. However, your joint up here is still the same. So you have the splined ends here, as you can see, are the same. So it bolts directly into your steering shaft, so you don't have to do any modifications there. If you run an 08 nut box, you have to modify your steering shaft. And then also I covered the the lines up here that are different. So you just need to change the one line. And then also the bolt holes need to be drilled out. But running this box versus this box is an upgrade, but it also makes your life a little bit easier when it comes to installing it in the truck. It's not as difficult to do in the truck because you can bolt it in per se. You drill out the 3 holes and then you change the one line. And then it lets you run all of your 05 setup, which is a lot easier to do than trying to find a custom pitman arm or dealing with your length differences for your pitman arms. It gives you a better steering ratio and it just all around works better. So we'll go ahead and get that steering box installed and show you what that's like. So I'd like to show you the difference here between these lines. So this is the booster side. As you can see, the early one has a 2-piece design and they come apart right here at this fitting. So you need to change this because your fitting down here, I'll move these up in the light a little bit, is different. So this is the box side. So as you can see, when you change the 05 box, you have a different fitting down here. But what's nice is you can change this to the newer style 05 and up line. Now, granted, this is a Hydro Boost truck, and most of these trucks are Hydro Boost. So if you do have one that has a brake booster, you're going to be doing different lines. So keep that in mind. Now, when replacing these, they send you a baggie with 2 O-rings and a cap. You can put the cap on there if you want, or here, or whatever if you need to, but it's just for in case you need to cover the end of the line for some reason. But make sure that you put these O-rings on the end of the line because these are an O-ring type seal. Okay, so we'll keep moving on this install here, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all put together. All right, so we have the new 05 and up steering box installed. You can see the blue top on that one there. We also have the 99 return put back in, which is the line here. And then you have the 05 and up line, which is here, that runs all the way up to the booster. You can see it goes into the booster up there. Now, the bolt that I was talking about to take off is this one right here. So let's see if I can get a light up there for you. This here. You have to take this nut off of the master cylinder to get that short line off of the booster. Make sure you put this back on because that holds the booster on. So anyway, the new track bar mount, which is the 05 and up one here, it is loosely installed using one of the original bolt holes for the older bracket. So we still have to drill those 2 holes, and then we have to drill this hole, and we have to drill this hole here. This one can be a through bolt. This one needs to be drilled and then tapped because you can't get in there with anything unless you make, you can't get in there with anything. So this is this side. I didn't put this coil bucket on over here because I wanted to show you the track bar mount without having the coil bucket in the way and then all these other lines. You can also see that we have the brake line removed here. Now this is an early 99, so there's no 4-wheel ABS on this truck, only a rear ABS module instead of the 4-wheel ABS that the 99 to 03 trucks have. So I don't know how far they ran the rear ABS only, but I do know that in 2000 they started using the 4-wheel ABS. So this brake line will not be here if you have a newer truck with 4-wheel ABS. So that line won't be there. However, you will still have your brake line that came off earlier. So we have to tee this line off to run to this side and also that side, but I cannot do that until I put the coil buckets in. So on this side, you can see I have 1 bolt in this coil bucket mount. You can also see that there's 4 holes through. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one is not through. So on these frames, there is holes already there. You just need to enlarge them. So I like to use 1/2-inch bolts. And as you can see, these are nice round holes in here. And on the other side of the frame, I'll go back and show you, they're oval. But there's also 2 on the bottom here as well. You can see them right by the vice grip there, and then on this side over here. So those need to be drilled. I don't know how well you can see, but there's already a frame. So you just have to enlarge the holes in the frame. So we'll show you those ovals on the other side. So these ones are a little more round, these holes here. Those will be the holes you use. So you got a couple holes here. I don't know which ones we'll be using because I don't have the coil bucket mounted on over here. But whenever you get that on there, you can actually enlarge those holes prior to, or you can wait until you get the coil bucket put on. And I use those clamps to hold it against the frame because that is the most important thing you need, is that bucket to be up against the bottom of this frame. So we're going to go ahead and start drilling a bunch of holes and get those buckets mounted on, get some brake lines ran, and then we get to move on to installing the arm mounts, which I'm hoping that this oil filter is not in the way. We might have to move that for the radius arm mounts. So we will see, because this truck does have a remote mount oil filter on it. So as you can see here, we have the track bar loosely installed. I drilled this hole over here. I used a 1/2 inch by 13 bolt, and it is a 27/64 drill bit and then a 1/2 13 tap. I used a factory bolt over here for this bolt here. Use the factory retaining bolts up here. So I drilled those at 9/16, and that fits that metric bolt really well because it's an M14. And as you can see here, we have the steering box installed. I am currently in the process of torquing down that pitman arm nut to 350 foot-pounds. And then we have this side completely bolted in. So that is what you're looking for here. Like I said, I used 1/2 inch bolts because I like the 1/2 inch bolts to give you a good strong clamp on those, instead of, I think 9/16 is what you could use if you didn't want to drill any holes at all as far as enlarging. But I like the 1/2 inch bolts, give you a little bit stronger clamp, a little bit stronger bolt. So we went ahead and I use them that way. So we're going to go ahead and torque this pitman arm down and get this torqued to spec. Hopefully it doesn't take real long here. Just make sure it's right. There we go. So I always double check a torque, because the first time you get it might not be right. So now that it's all torqued in, we don't have to worry about it. And I'll tighten this track bar mount up. So once that's done, we can work on doing the other side here with the coil bucket. Get that all mounted in. So one thing is, I do have the torque wrench here. Get a zoom in. So 323 foot-pounds. So that is the spec we use because we added 4 inches of length with the torque adapter. With the extra 4 inches of length, there's a mathematical equation to make sure that you get the right torque spec at the end of the torque wrench. So we got the front end closer to done. Coil buckets are completely mounted, top, sides, bottom. Track bar is also mounted correctly, all bolted in. Brake line ran to the other side. Going to put some new brake lines on the front here, just use the old ones for mocking them up. Had to trim the inner fender a little bit to clear the bucket. Didn't want to go too wild with it. Just wanted to clear it so that it wasn't pushing down on the bucket too much, because that means that it was pushing up on the inner fender. So got this side all buttoned up, and Got this side also bolted in and secured. Also, brake line just mocked up there with the old one. So you can see we ran a nice new copper nickel line and bent it to make sure that it didn't rub anything. Didn't want to use the old steel line because it did look good, but if you're replacing brake lines, you might as well use the good stuff and make sure that it's not going to rot out or cause problems at another time. So we still have to do the radius arms, and those will go in this general area. So I'm going to have to move the air jack on here, which is no big deal, but we're going to move the air jack back and pick up in the center of the cab and try to get those mounted up here as our next little step. So once we get this radius arm mounts put on both sides, we can go ahead and wheel the front axle in here and start setting it down on there. So that'll be our next big thing here, and then that'll be the complete front end swap on this truck. Hopefully it won't take much longer here. Working pretty hard to get this done, and we'll get it back on its feet here in no time. All right, guys, so we got a little farther here, and I noticed that I've been having some microphone issues, so I apologize if there's something that is kind of off per se. So if I notice it when I'm doing all these videos put together here, I'll try to fix it best I can. But anyway, as you can see, we got the jack moved back here, and I got the stand under the engine cradle here just to be a little bit safer. And we got the radius arm mounts put up here. So I'm going to show you that this hole, and this hole are here, okay? And they are large enough, they do not need to be reamed out. This hole is not here at all on this frame. And then there's 3 on the bottom that are also going to be there, but may need to be reamed. So the front 2, so towards the front of the truck, are there, but need to be reamed out a little bit depending on bracket placement and how they did the holes. The back hole is completely there and does not need anything. So this is on the passenger side. So we'll go ahead over to the driver's side, and I can show that side to you because this side's a little bit different. And we did end up having to move this oil filter. And as you can see, it's sitting on the edge of the bracket, but we built some nice little spacers there to hold it out. I don't know how well you can see them in there. They're kind of back there. So we made some nice spacers instead of having just nuts put on it. Didn't want it to look like a hack did this. So once again, pretty much the same as the other side. These 3 holes are here. The top one is not. And then the forward 2 holes are there. The back hole is not there whatsoever. So that one will need drilled. So depending on bracket placement, you will have to ream some holes or add holes. And then also, because the frame on the 99 and 04 99 to 04 trucks is a little bit different right here, you do need to add spacers underneath the frame on top of the bottom of this bracket so that you get a nice firm hold on the frame. So that is something that should be done. And you can kind of see there's a little bit of a gap there, but there are spacers in there to facilitate good contact. So that is something that we had to do over here. So that pretty much completes the front of this truck as far as bolting bracketry on. Our next step up here is going to be getting the axle installed. So get that axle rolled in underneath here and get that bolted up. So we got to put the track bar mount or track bar in, the coil springs and shocks, and put the drive shaft back on. Drive shaft should not need any modifications. We will find out once it gets put in the truck, because on the other truck we had to change the front drive shaft, and the friend of mine that gave me some pointers for this, he told me he did not have to change his front drive shaft. So we'll see if we have to change the one on this truck. I'm hoping not, because this one doesn't need anything. It's good, so try to reuse it. But that's about the front of this truck. I mean, it's pretty much ready to go in. Got all the little odds and ends taken care of, brake lines, mounts, the oil filter, just little stuff that needed to be checked out and moved or changed. Like I said, we're still waiting on those brake lines, and hopefully those will be here pretty soon, and we can get this whole front end completely buttoned up. That way we can start on the rear here. We did have a change of plans for back here. We are going to reuse these traction bars. He said he wants to keep them on there. He said he's not worried about upgrading them or updating them just yet. So we'll end up cutting the tabs off the rear axle and welding them onto the new one. So those will be staying there. We still have to drop the tank out, and he decided that he wanted to reuse a sump. So I'm going to pull the tank out, clean it out, and we're going to have a new sump put in this tank. We can get rid of this fuel cell in the bed. It's not exactly bolted down because it was just used as a temporary fix to get the truck moving. And hopefully we can get this axle put under here so that we can get this truck put back together. So we got it set up here, as you can see. Put it up here with the forks, have it sitting on the air jack now so I can lower it down a little bit. I had to raise it up a little bit so that I could get the forks out from underneath it. But as you can see, we're going to have to do some stuff to this axle. You can see that bar's bent there, and we got a bad tie rod end here. But I wanted to get the axle put in the truck before we started to modify or fix broken problems, because I mean, you don't know what's really wrong with it until you get it in the truck, get some weight on it, and see what does or does not work. Like the other side has a locked up caliper slide. No surprise, Super-Duty axles. So as you can see here, we're pretty far from where we need to be. So I got it sitting on the air jack here so I can move it around a little bit, and we'll go ahead and re-brace it. If we have to use the machine to move it back farther, we can do that. I just wanted to get it set down and on here so I can get a good idea of what needs to be done next. So our next step here is to go ahead and get this thing lined up, get the radius arms bolted up, and then we can go ahead and put the coils on. All right. So as you can see, we have the coil springs in here. They're also not set yet. And we have the radius arm bolts in, which are not tight. So you don't want to tighten these up to all the weight's on the truck. All right. So when you're doing these coil springs, you have these isolators up top. They are keyed, so they will fit on the top of the coil spring and kind of lock in. And then the bottom also has a seat that is also keyed. So, you know, these will spin and that's it. As you can see, it stops. So that is the correct set for those. Now we have the coils on both sides lined up. Radius arms bolts are put in. So what we're working on now is getting the weight on this front axle a little bit so that these coil springs can set up into the buckets so that way they don't come out. And then we're going to work on putting the track bar up in its mount, because if you set all the weight on this axle without that track bar installed, there's a very good possibility that this truck could fall off of this lift, because there's nothing holding that axle and those coil springs can go any which way they want. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing a coil swap like this, that you need to have that axle and truck connected so that it doesn't fall off, fall over, or lean bad and cause you problems and shoot the springs out or anything like that. So that track bar is extremely important when you're doing one of these swaps. So I'm going to show you me putting this down a little bit more here, and hopefully we can get that all on video easily. So as you can see, that jack in the back is basically a pivot point for this. So in reality, I need to set this back jack down, but I want to see if I can get the track bar mounted in here first. Because if we can get that in, then we're definitely on the right path here. That's pretty close there. Let's see if we can get it to go in. So it's up in there, but the truck needs to come down some more. So most of that weight is on that front axle, and I don't want all of the weight on it, because I need to have that support from that front jack. So that's very, very important to have this jack still supporting. So I got to go in the back here and get this back jack to come down some more. So as you can see, that whole truck lowered down. That axle needs to come this way. So as of right now, there's too much weight on this front axle, so I need to steal my air back. The back jack is too far away from its air source. So as you can see, that coil spring is staying in that bucket. So we need to see if we can get this to shimmy over. All right, so we got that track bar kind of put in there, so I had to lower this front down just a smidge more. So if you have a drift, I know it's hard to see over here what I'm doing. If you have a drift or something that you can put in there to line this track bar up. So I got the bolt started. Now I just got to make it finish going in here. So the idea is to not destroy those threads. I'm going to show you what I got going on over here. So as you can see, that bolt is started in there. So it was kind of lined up. It was lined up enough that I could put a drift in there and use it as leverage to pull that axle over. It's pretty amazing how a little bit of leverage can do a lot of work for you. So we got the bolt started there. I'm going to go ahead and work on getting that bolt the rest of the way in, and then I'll get this thing on its own weight finally. It'd be nice to get it off these jacks. All right, you can see the jack is gone in the front here. The jack is gone in the back here. And the truck is sitting on its own weight. So we got some stuff to check here. So yeah, we got some tight rotors. And got to hook up the drag link yet. I'm not going to hook the drag link up until I figure out what it needs for steering here, because if we need to order some steering, there's no point in even putting it all together, because you're just going to have to take it all back apart. Like I said, that crossbar is bent, so we got to get that replaced. And looks like this boot here's got some wear, and this boot is missing, and this rod here is junk. So at that point, we may end up replacing all of this just for safety reasons. You're going through all of this. There's no point in cutting a couple corners. $100 here, $100 there, you know, could really make a difference in how your truck is going to drive and ride, and you don't want to have any safety issues with this. So these have been replaced before, and I'm afraid we're probably going to have to do some more to it, but that's neither here nor there, because safety is a very big concern of mine. So if it's leaving here unsafe, it's not leaving, period. So got some more stuff to check out here and see what all we got to do. But there's the front end. It's installed for the most part. We just got to do some safety features and safety items and some maintenance parts here. But that is a 05 and up swap on a 99 to 04 Super Duty. So like I said, we got some things to tie up here, but I wanted to get this video put together for you guys so you could see what was going on. And I got to torque the radius arm bolts, and I'll put that into the comments here or in the video description, because I don't have that spec on me at the moment, so I have to go look it up. So there we are. Thanks for watching, guys. We're going to do the rear in the next video of this truck. So we'll have the rear put in, and I'll show you what you guys got to do for the rear. It's pretty simple. It's going to be pretty cut and dry. The main issue is the front here. So appreciate you guys watching and subscribing to my channel. I'm hoping to keep doing stuff like this for my friends and myself. So we're trying to make some differences here, try to do quality work. Don't want to be like a lot of these other shops that are out there that just throw stuff together and say, here you go. You know, I like to do a quality job, even though, you know, I'm not doing this for any profit. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.